Alrighty, friends. Uh-oh. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, I accidentally hit the volume on this little window with my face in it, and that made an echo, and that is not something that we want to hear. You only want to hear me one time, not twice at the same time. So, today we're going to talk about the music of Mongolia. So, Mongolia is a country that is influenced by a lot of different other countries and other cultures. It sits between Russia and China. You can see this hot pink here, kind of in between Russia and China. And then over here, this map is not in English. I think it's in German, but that's okay because it has a really clear showing of Florida over here. I put the tip of the star kind of where we live. And then Mongolia is over here. So it's pretty much other side of the world from us. And they've had a lot of different groups of people try to be in charge of them, and a lot of different groups coming in and coming through and passing on their culture while they were there. So here are some of the main musical instruments that exist in Mongolia as traditional instruments. The most important one is the morin khur, or also called the horsehead fiddle. It's kind of hard to see, but this is carved very delicately and in very much detail in the shape of a horse head. It has two strings. You can see there's two tuning pegs, two strings. It's played by using a bow. There's nothing to hold it down. You just use your legs to rest it on. Somewhat similar to a cello as far as putting it between your legs, bow across the body, that sort of thing, but it sounds pretty different. We've got the shants, which have three strings and are played similar to like a guitar or ukulele. You can see the lady's hands there. There's the kuchir, which is another two-stringed instrument played with a bow on the lap, and you'll see that in the video that we're going to watch. The everbure, which is this curved horn here, looks like somebody melted or heated a clarinet to be softer and then twisted it into this shape here, but it does sound very different. And then finally, I'll move my face here. The yuchin, which is this stringed instrument. They call it a dulcimer type of instrument, where it is laid flat out in front of you, and you can pluck the strings, or sometimes they're hammered, depending on what exact type of instrument it is. This one is plucked. So there's a few different types of traditional Mongolian music. The first one is the most interesting by far. It is called overtone singing or throat singing. It's more like your body is an instrument than that it is singing. It involves different ways of breathing which allow the body to produce two tones at the same time, one like a high whistle and one like a low drone. So you're going to hear it in the video, but basically it's a way of singing where your mouth all the way connected down to your breathing. So everything from mouth and then voice box and breathing is all so perfectly placed that when you sing or when you produce a tone, you hear a low drone type of sound, like a ba. And then on top of that, you hear what are called overtones, which are high whistly type notes that happen because it's so perfectly aligned. And you'll hear that in the video that we're going to watch after this. It is the craziest thing. It makes sense if you know like the physics behind the way that the voice works and the way that sound works. But it doesn't make it any less like trippy and amazing when you hear and see it happen. And we could go into a whole lesson about that, but I don't think that you would find that as enjoyable. The next thing is the long song. So the long song is one of the main forms of traditional Mongolian music. It allowed for sharing of music and information. People would come together, different groups from different regions of Mongolia, different parts of Mongolia would come together, and it was a way for them to share information, share music that they'd never heard before, different things like that, and they would kind of sing about it via the long song. Certain songs were popular to be sung at weddings or imperial meetings. Others were like pop songs. So there were different types of long songs for different reasons, and some of them would be, the new ones that were about information would not necessarily be like the popular ones, but they would have ones that everybody knew and like sung to themselves while they were working and that kind of stuff, or sung together when they were all together for a party or something. That were more like pop songs that had to do with other subjects that weren't necessarily sharing of new information. And then the last one is court music, which is music played for like when all the royal people would hang out in the palace, is the best way that I can describe it to you. The court is the emperor and empress and all of the royal people that held titles that would be either live in the palace or they would come hang out in the palace every day, and that was kind of what their job was. That's what a court is. It's similar with like a king and queen, and then you have all the dukes and duchesses and counts and countesses and things like that. That is the court, the people that hang out closely with the king and queen, or in this case it would be the emperor and empress. And so it was, music for fun, basically. It was influenced by other countries, by China, by Russia, by the Western countries like in Europe. So that's what that is. And then last, just a little bit of a fun fact. So they do have pop music. They have various genres, but the four main ones are rock, hip-hop, pop, and alternative. Alternative includes alt-rock and heavy metal. In addition, they have their own pop-folk style of music. And then also, due to the influences in the second half of the 20th century from Russia wanting to be more like Europe and more like Italy and Spain and France with their cultural experiences, and then they influenced Mongolia, classical music and ballet were introduced and have become popular, and people are Mongolia has like made it their own, so they have their own types of classical and ballet music.